I'm Krista Lewis, and sometimes I'm Pippa Jane, and you're listening to The Featured Voice with Jacques, an audio flow podcast series, because these voices deserve to be heard.
Hey everyone, thanks so much for joining us for episode 3 of The Featured Voice Season 2. I hope that you are enjoying all of the episodes so far. I know that I am, and it's hard to believe that because we're only doing 6 episodes this season that we're almost done. We're halfway there, and it's exciting to know that we will have completed almost 3 seasons this year. So thank you guys so much for listening. Thank you so much to the narrators who make these shows possible. Today's guest is someone that I had a pleasure of meeting again on Facebook, because that's where I make all my connections. It's so funny that that's how we build relationships now, is through Facebook, but I'm honored that I can call everyone that I've met on Facebook friend, and this person is no different. I can't wait to chat with her. I can't wait for you guys to hear everything that we're going to chat about, and hoping at the end of the episode you'll head right on over and pick up some of her audiobooks. I know I will. So help me welcome this week's featured voice guest, Karen Krause. Hi Karen, welcome to the Featured Voice. How are you?
I am doing great, Jacques. Thanks very much. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. Let's see. We are in, what month are we in? We are in October now. And so it's officially fall. And I'm in the Midwest. So what is fall like where you live?
Oh, up and down. I live in Colorado. And so we can get snow and 10-degree weather. And we can also get sunshine and 70-degree weather. 70-degree weather where I am.
7 degrees would be awful.
Yeah, we get that every now and then. But then again, we get shirt sleeve weather in the fall too.
Really?
So it's just, oh yeah, you just never really know around here. Generally, it's a little bit cooler in the fall.
Uh-huh. But it's interesting that you said you guys get a variation of temperatures. You know, most people, when they think about Colorado, they kind of link that together with skiing and snow.
And
They don't
lots
really
of
think
snow.
about it as anything else but cold, snow, and skiing.
Right. But the funny thing is, it can snow in May here as well. So you just don't know. Our snow season is from September through May, but seldom is it cold all winter.
Really? Well, I
Mm-hmm.
guess that's not too bad. I made my first trip to Colorado this year in August, and it was beautiful. It was about probably the mid 70s, 80s there, and it was really beautiful to look at. And hopefully, I'll be visiting there again next year, as long as I'm there during the summer months and there's no snow, because I really could go the rest of my life without snow. So yeah, that works out for me.
It's snow I like. It's the really bitter temperatures that bother me. So we don't get that a lot, but we will get our sub-zero temperatures a couple times a year.
Yeah, I'm not a fan. But but anyway, so again, welcome to the show. Thank you for being our third featured voice for season 2 of the Featured Voice. And it's been really exciting to get to know some new people, see some new faces as you and I are doing the video chat. I don't normally do video chat for anybody, but Karen, she's special.
I'm special.
She's special. She's special. And so I thought she might want to see my smiling face with no makeup or anything on. So, so welcome
You
to
look
my
lovely.
world. Oh, thank you. Well, Karen, I don't really remember how you and I met, so I can't say that I met you in a group or if you saw the casting call for the Feature Voice or how that actually went. Do you remember how we actually connected?
Yes, I think it was a Facebook group, and I think I've seen a lot of your posts, and I think I might have seen and reached out to you with this when you did the casting post on that Facebook page. I believe that's probably what I did. It's been a while.
Yeah, I mean, it was a couple months ago, but I'm glad that
Hmm.
we now have this opportunity to chat and to learn a little bit more about you and your background and things like that. So, for persons who are not familiar with your work yet, why don't we kind of just dive right in and learn a little bit about you? And if you want to tell us, how you got started in this business, what was your push toward audiobook narrations, and if you started in any theatrical work or anything like that. So walk us through the process of how you got to here.
Okay. Well, I was born. You probably don't want to hear that whole story, do you?
I was born in 19, fill in the blanks.
That's right. Um, Actually, I have been involved in performing and theatrics since I was a kid, almost since I was born. My family was very musical. Um, I was performing on stage at 7 and kind of got bit by the spotlight bug. So I ended up going into theater and going to college for theater and getting the degree and the whole works. Um, and about the only time I took time off from it was when my children were little. I had about an 8-year hiatus there where I was not doing stage mostly. I've done some film, but mostly stage. When I was growing up, I loved books. And it didn't matter what you put in front of me, I devoured it. I got to where I really leaned toward mysteries and adventure stories and that sort of thing. So this whole time I was raising a family and doing my theater, I was also reading avidly, running out of time to do my reading. And so I started listening to audiobooks when they were literally cassette tapes. And yeah, you had to carry around a box for the whole
So
book.
for those of you guys who don't know, this was pre-CD players. This was pre MP3 players or iPods or USB devices. These were cassette tapes, and it was like a little film, and we used to have to rewind them with a pencil if they got stuck. And so
Yep.
if you don't know what that is, Google it.
Right. And they actually made the portable little Walkmans
Yes.
for the cassette tapes as well. So really you would have a bag if you're on the move listening to audiobooks, you would have your little bag that would carry the tapes and the Walkman and carry it around with you. So it was kind of interesting. But I don't really know exactly why. It was in 2012, I believe, that the little light bulb went off over my head. And I realized, you know what? I love to act. Mm-hmm. I love to read. And I love to listen to audiobooks. Why am I not reading audiobooks for the public? So that was my first time I actually thought about getting into narrating audiobooks. It was about 5 years ago. And I've never looked back. I love it. I've had to give up a lot of acting, but it's worth it to me.
So were you one of those children who back in the day, you mentioned that you started on stage and acting about 7. So were you that really imaginative child that would kind of put on your own plays at home? You dress up and you're kind of acting out things because that's what I used to do. I don't know if I was any good at it, and I was an only child. So just think of me, this was pre-audiobook, so me acting out all the parts in the house. I was everybody. So
Mm-hmm.
were you ever doing anything like that, or was it just me?
No, I was involved in that. I was the youngest of 3 girls. My oldest sister was the neighborhood take charge. Hey, let's do this person. Mm-hmm. And so she was the one who was always orchestrating. We did the plays in the backyard, and we would get all the neighborhood kids to come and see us. I just kind of followed along and did what she told me. But yes, we did.
But did she give you a speaking part?
Sometimes, yes, yes. Mostly she did the speaking, of course, because it was her baby. But yes, I did get to have some speaking roles now and again.
More again than now, I guess.
Right.
So you began your journey into audiobooks probably about 5 years ago, which was kind of the age of indie publishing. And so, of course, a lot of things changed from what it was then to what it was now, and being on cassette. So, what are some things that you noticed have been a big change in the industry as related to audiobooks, whether it's the way it's recorded, the way it is marketed, and a big influx in its popularity?
Hmm. Well, I mean, like from the time I started listening,
Yeah, because when you were listening, there were tapes, and of course,
right?
it was a lot different, even probably
Hmm.
in the sound quality. I don't know because I wasn't listening to it, but what are some big differences that you've noticed just in the industry overall as it comes to audiobooks?
There are so many of them now, and so many more books that will be made into audiobooks. Um, I guess the big difference for me as a listener was I didn't have to carry around that bag of cassettes anymore. Um, and that was nice.
Yeah.
That's kind of cumbersome. But um, as far as the quality, it's kind of a give and a take. When they were doing the ones on cassette tapes, and even once they got into the CDs, the narrator was going into a large professional studio to perform. You would go in there, and the sound quality was all professional. It was all run by professionals, professional engineers. You would have a director. Everything was done there. And so the actual sound quality in and of itself, I think, was a little more stable across the board. The thing about it was that often you didn't have the editing capability that you have now with the digital, because you're working with analog sound,
Right.
and it's just a total different medium. I think now, well, and I've listened to some old recordings that really sound horrible.
I like how you said that really slowly so that you can watch how you want me to say what you were thinking, that face that you made? You want me to say it? Because I'll say it.
Sure.
There were some audiobooks out there that really sucked. They
Yes.
just sucked. They were so awful that the tape should have been burned.
True. Now, whether that quality was because the tapes that they recreated and made digital were just really bad because they had been used so many times, or if the original quality of that was so bad. Because basically what you recorded was what you got back then. You could splice the tape together and do that sort of thing, but that's about it. So, I'm not saying the sound quality was all wonderful. It's just that you had that basis in the professional studios. Now, and it's kind of been progressing that way, now that you don't have to be on the coast and go into a major studio to do the recording, there's the flexibility of having a home studio, and being able to record your own has really kind of, you just see in waves the quality of sound that you get from that. You have some people who have not set their studios up correctly, or they don't really have a high quality of recording and editing process. And so, you have a little lower quality there in the finished product.
Right.
But then again, there are a lot of those home studios where you've got some really professional people working out of those.
Right.
So it's, I think, a little more of a mixed in the quality that you get. And I think when people go on and listen to samples and get audiobooks as consumers, you kind of have to be a little more discretionary and actually do listen to those samples, do pay attention to the audio that you can hear before you purchase it, because you may be getting an absolutely wonderful quality recording when you download it, but then again, you may not be.
Yeah.
So
kind of like a 50-50 there. And you know what? I couldn't even imagine the editing process with those tapes, because I just remember trying to record music on a tape and trying to go back and start it over from the end point. Or can you imagine? I don't even know if this happened. You're listening to one of those good audiobooks and something good's happening, and then it stops and you have to flip the tape over.
Yes. Hopefully.
That would be the one thing that would frustrate me. It's like right at some good part, there, whatever you listen to, and you're like all into it, and then it just goes click, and you're like, oh man.
Oh, gosh. And you can't like flip it over and rewind it to go back in again. It's like, okay, what were they saying?
Yeah. So
you got to keep that in your head.
Exactly. So we are happy that the tapes went away and they made it over to CDs, which was good. And now I don't like CDs because I don't own a CD player. Mm-hmm. I don't have one in my car. The computers don't even have CD players anymore. So it's kind of like CDs are now obsolete, and we are left with everything being digital and able to be downloaded, which I think is pretty good for this particular for this love that we have to be able to listen to our books at such an easy way, even from our cell phones, because everybody has a cell phone, or everybody has an iPhone or an iPad or something, and they can listen to it. And I never listened to a book on the tape. I'm just going to be, I don't even remember. I know that you can get them from libraries and stuff. I just don't remember that. But as something about the quality, when a person is in the studio and it's nice and crisp and you don't get, the feedback, and that just comes from people being in the right setting, I think. So now for you, do you remember that first audiobook that you did and how it sounded compared to some of the works that you are putting out now?
I do. I remember it was an interesting book. It was the very first audition I ever did. Okay. My husband is my engineer and my editor for me. He's got a background in this sort of thing. So we did the recording in one of the bedrooms that is across the hall from his studio, because we didn't have a sound booth at the time. It was the very first audition I'd ever done. And so we were recording that way. We did the audition. He prepared it. I sent it off to the author and went to bed and tried to sleep. And had about 6 hours of sleep. Got up the next morning. I had the email and I got the job, which I was just shocked with that. It was, well, for the first one. I mean, that's not going to happen with every audition, obviously. It slowed down a little after that. But it was like, oh my God, now what do we do? Because it was our first audition we'd done. We were just getting things all set up. And so we had to hurry up and make sure that we had everything that we needed to make a professional recording of this. So we were kind of stressed there for a little while. We had a lot of things to learn. Mouth noise, all sound from outside. You just have to be very patient in that situation when you don't have the sound booth, to be able to make sure that you get a good, clean sound in the recording and you don't have interference going there. But it was a kind of a cozy travel mystery. I'm from the South, so there was a slight Southern accent to the main character in first person. And so that was kind of fun. I got to do, Greek, Italian, French.
And all in that same book?
Southern, yes, because it was a travel mystery. So they went, they were going to Greece, but they went through Italy first, and they went to several places. I can't remember how many more.
It's
There were
like
2 or 3 other
it's
accents that I
it's
got
like
to
where
do.
in the world is Carmen San Diego?
Yeah.
Like
Except the answer's pre-written.
exactly. We know where she is. Just skip to the end.
Yes, yes, yeah, yeah. So it was just kind of it was an exhilarating experience for me, in a lot of ways, because I did I learned so much. I mean, when you just jump in with both feet, and you immerse yourself right away, it's the learning curve is just steep, steep, steep. So I learned an awful lot, and I love learning, so I was fine with that. And the thing we learned first was we need a sound booth.
Mm-hmm.
And so we had one of those made for us and installed before we tried to do another book. So it was several months in between my first book and then the next one that I contracted out for, just because we wanted to make sure that we had all of those extraneous sounds taken care of.
Mm-hmm.
There's enough to worry about without worrying about those. And my husband did a little bit of updating on his recording software and editing software, so things were a little bit better for him. So yes, I think we've learned a lot as far as the quality is a big difference right now.
Mm-hmm.
The my performance, I think, is better. I seldom go back and actually listen to the older books.
You're the only person who does that.
Really? Nobody
Yes.
else listens, or?
I think maybe one other person told me that they've gone back and listened to some of their earlier works, but yeah, not many people do that.
No, it's not necessarily something I enjoy doing either, because I have moved on, and I think that I don't really want to hear my voice from back then. I will do it on occasion if I feel like I need to just touch base with something, or if there was a character in one of the books that I would like to reanimate for another book, I will go back and check it out. But I don't go back and listen very often. But I think that where I've improved is a lot in my flow.
Mm-hmm.
There's more of a flow and a rhythm in the speech. It's a little bit quicker, a little bit more conversational than it was originally. So I'm learning more voices all the time, more accents all the time, and learning, how to control that voice and the vocal apparatus.
Mm-hmm. Well, in your first book, I mean, you had 5 accents in that one book.
Yes.
So that was a lot. What's been your training like to kind of nail down some of those accents? What do you do to, I guess, make them sound natural or believable in that dialect?
Well, I've always kind of had an aptitude and an interest in accents. I had to learn a Cockney accent when I was 15 for a show I did. And from there on, I just kind of fell in love with accents. I was born in the South, so I will slip back into that one just by calling my mom on the phone. Mm-hmm. That's all that takes. And so I just have kind of searched out over the years roles that would let me learn and perfect different accents. So by the time I did this book, I was already fairly proficient with quite a few of them. And I'm always looking for a reason to learn more. Mm-hmm. For one book, I had to learn an Indian accent, which I'd never done before. And that was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed that. So it's just something I love to do. So I constantly am looking out for opportunities.
So have you found an accent that you believe is like a second nature to you that you perform very well? And do you have one that if you saw it come up in an audition, you would say, nah, I'll pass?
Yes, to both. Uh, I've had a lot of experience doing British, just standard British RP, um, and Irish. I feel very comfortable doing both of those. I feel comfortable with French, um, Russian, pretty comfortable with German. Scottish, I need to pick it up when I have to use it.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't just roll as easily as Irish or British, and Cockney. I've been doing that one since I was 15, so I feel very comfortable with that one. Cockney and Eastender. I think one that I would need work on would be any of like a Chinese or Japanese.
Mm-hmm.
I've not really had much opportunity to do that. I mean, obviously it's not my type. So it's not like I'm going to get cast in a role that has a Japanese accent. So it's not been one that I have had to learn in the past. So I think that would be one I would have to really jump into and do some hard work on.
That's a challenge.
Yes.
I'm going to pitch you to every author I know that has some type of Chinese monologue or dialogue, not monologue, they're not talking to themselves, dialogue in it. And I'm gonna say,
sometimes they do.
Well, I have the perfect person for you. Her name is Karen Krause, and she would love to do a book that has Japanese conversations and dialogue in it. Doesn't have to be long. They could just say a couple words because she says she could totally rock it. Now I just put that in your mouth. So that means over the next few weeks you'll go and you'll find you some Rosetta Stone or something, and you'll get to learning.
Okay, I need to learn that one ASAP, right?
Yes, as soon as I can find somebody who has that in their books, and so I could send them to you and say, she's got it. She knows about 6 other ones she's comfortable with, and this one, she's getting there with it. But if you put her in that book, she's going to do it some justice. So I'm vouching for you, Karen.
Okay, thank you. No pressure though, right?
No pressure at all.
I actually really love the challenge of having to learn to crash course something like that, because it gives me the incentive to just improve myself. And I love that challenge. So I'm going to go out tomorrow and I'm going to pull out my accent books and my accent CDs and I'm going to start listening.
That's right. And every week I'm going to send you a message and I'm going to say, how's it going? And maybe I'll say it like in Japanese one day, Mandarin Chinese, and maybe Vietnamese. No? Too much?
No. Just because I can speak in the accent doesn't mean I can read or understand the language.
I think you might want to
totally
know
different.
What it's saying. If it's in a book and you're performing it, I think you wouldn't want to know what it's saying, right? You're like, no.
Well, yes, if I actually had to speak Chinese or Japanese, yes, I would have to know what it was saying. Yes.
Okay. Well, in a book, maybe it'll just be a phrase or something, and it won't be full-on sentences, and you won't be saying curse you and die or something. So it's good to know these things.
That could be fun to say.
It could be. Now I want to look it up in different languages and say, this is the phrase we're going to start saying when we're upset at something. Not somebody, because we don't want to curse anybody, but
okay.
We don't want to curse anybody.
Right. You're right.
We don't want to do that. But I like that. I find that most people that I chat with all say that Scottish is one of the hardest languages. And I forgot who I was speaking with somebody about this, and they were giving me the difference because, of course, in my head, I'm like, I like Irish accents. I like Scottish is hot, and in my mind, I'm like, they should be similar, but they're really not that similar. It's like thinking that Spanish and Portuguese is similar, and they're not similar. Portuguese has a harsher tone to it than Spanish. Spanish kind of flows. Portuguese to me is like Dutch German with a hint of like Italian or something tossed in there. I just made that up, but
Sounds great.
That's how it sounds. Like, thank you in Spanish is real simple. You like, gracias. And in Portuguese, you like obrigado or something like that. And it's just totally, and you're like, that doesn't even sound right. But so that's how I think about Scottish. Is that your kind of take on it, that it's more of a not so much of a flowy kind of language, and it's more of a harsher tone to it? Is that what makes it a little difficult?
Yeah, partly. It's the Irish it has that lilt, that musicality to it, up and down, and it's not back in the throat like Scottish is. You've got the guttural sounds in Scottish, the glottal T's, a lot of glottal sounds, like, where you say little instead of little. Very, very, very harsh in that regard. It's way back in the throat, rather. And that's the thing with accents. There's so much about the placement of the sound that makes that accent what it is. A New York accent is placed right in the very front of the mouth. The Scottish is way back in the back. And a lot of them live kind of in the middle. But the placement of where that sound is created in your mouth, in your vocal apparatus, that really gives it that unique sound.
That's interesting.
And
I'm looking at you on the video, everybody, you can't see it, but then she's like pointing to the back of her throat, and then she's pointing in the front. And me, I don't think about where my sound comes from. I don't think about, what it takes or what muscles it takes to make a certain sound or to say a certain word. And so that's an interesting way to kind of think about how those different accents and where they come from, as opposed, how they're speaking. They speak from here, or, whatever. It's kind of like singing. You sing. Some people sing from their nose. They sound a little nasally. Some people sing they have a throat. They have a head voice. Some people sing correctly through the diaphragm. And it's just different. And that's something I learned today. I never knew that. So now when I speak, I'm going to be saying, am I speaking from the back of my throat? Am I speaking up here? But, I've kind of got that garbage can, kitchen sink accent, so I don't really know where it's rolling from. So I don't know.
And it varies. Sometimes you go front and back. I mean, it depends. So
yeah, it's just front, back, side, left, right, up, down. It's just, whatever.
It's American.
That's right. It's just regular old American. Sometimes it's Southern, sometimes it's Midwestern, sometimes it's just regular something, lazy English. So you said that you were originally from the South. So which area of the South are you from?
I was born in the Ozarks.
Okay.
So I'm a mountain girl. Although some people, Colorado doesn't consider the Ozarks mountains. They're really more hills, but they don't compare to the Rockies in that regard. But yeah, that's more, not deep South, but just kind of rural Southern Arkansas mountain.
Okay. Southern Arkansas mountain.
Yep.
Well, there's nothing wrong with that. Nothing at all. I've not been to Arkansas yet. Maybe one day I'll get there. Maybe there'll be a book event there or something, and I'll go hang out. And it used to be Arkansas. I don't know why that word is not Arkansas, because
it's French.
Okay, I get it. Arkansas. It just still looks like Arkansas.
It does, but it's not. You're touching a sore point with
sorry.
this.
I've never called Arkansas Arkansas in real life, but it just made me think about people probably do say Arkansas.
Oh, they do, especially people who live in Kansas.
Oh, gosh.
I grew up in Kansas, spent most of my summers back in Arkansas with relatives, but it was one of my pet peeves. Ark City is a city in Kansas right on the border of Kansas and Oklahoma. And of course, it's spelled Arkansas.
Uh-huh.
And everybody in Kansas calls it Arkansas City. And so it was always one of my pet peeves, being from Arkansas, that it's like, no, it's not Arkansas City, it's Arkansas City. So I just got to where I avoided that whole argument, and it just got shortened to Ark City. That's the only way I ever referred to it.
Oh
It's
my
the only way I
gosh.
could survive growing up.
That's hilarious. But then again, is our culture and why so many people say that our language is just odd. And even though, Arkansas is French, mentally it should be Arkansas. Just like
Mhm.
Illinois should be Illinois because there's an S at the end. But then we make things so difficult and we're like, no, it's not. And it's French, even though it's in America, we're using it as a French word. So there you go.
Oh, yeah.
Those crazy.
That's the beauty of it. It's like
That's
the names of towns out here in Colorado. It's just really funny. Pueblo is a
yeah,
town south of Colorado Springs.
yeah.
People call it Pueblo, and that is perfectly acceptable to call it Pueblo here in Colorado. Same with Buena Vista. Buena
uh-huh.
Vista is Buena Vista. I
Yeah,
mean, so every region has their little idiosyncrasies in the way
yeah,
they pronounce things, and it's correct for that region.
yeah. It's funny to me though. But so let's talk, Karen. So how many books do you currently have under your belt so far?
I just finished the 40th book.
Yay,
And
congratulations.
thank you. It's not up on Audible yet. It should be released in about 3 weeks, I would
Okay.
imagine. So I just finished all the audio and uploaded it. And so now it's got to go through the quality control and all of that. So it'll be out soon. And I have two more on contract right now. And then I'm kind of trying to take a step back because I think I need to do some work um, on my marketing and my demos and that sort of thing. So I'm going to kind of take a step back and not be quite so crazy with rolling out book after book after book, to just concentrate on some business things now.
Yeah, and I think that's probably a good time because usually around the holidays, a lot of things do slow down a little bit.
Hmm.
We find that authors, they are pretty much done writing for this season. Right before November, they're taking a break, and so that's a good time for you to be able to take care of some of those administrative things and jump right back in,
Hmm.
ready to go in January. So we are looking forward to hearing some of your work. So, what are the genres that you are currently or have currently been working with, and what are some of your favorites so far?
Okay. Well, it's kind of funny. I'm a fiction girl right now. Not that I wouldn't love to do nonfiction, but I think because of my acting and my character experience, that's just where my uh, strengths lie.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's kind of what I've been doing. And it's really odd that most of the fiction books, well, I won't say most, half of the fiction books I have done have all been first person as well.
Mm.
So I'm actually narrating a character, which the narrator is a character as well, but not a
Yeah.
character in the story. Um, so, and I think that's just because that's what I do best.
Mm-hmm.
I need to work on, I guess, my narrating skills so that they're more even with my character skills, if that
Mm-hmm.
makes sense.
It does. So the narrating part is the part where
Now, she
you
was
it's
walking down the street
right, right. We're
and
hearing that
right.
part. Right, right.
Hmm. It's
And
third
I'll
person.
yeah, because okay, so little secret.
Hmm.
I hate third person. I hate the third person part, but I I realize that there in that first person, like you were mentioning, that there's two parts. So there's the character when they're in dialogue and the character when
Hmm.
she's like just telling us something, right? And
Right.
I always used to say, um, man, I wish that the person would sound different in both of those so that I can know that when she's actually having a dialogue and when she's actually telling me. And some people I don't think have mastered that part yet, or
Hmm.
or it sounds so different that it sounds like it doesn't flow very well. Like they should still sound like themselves, but maybe
Right.
they should still sound like the character, and maybe it should be a little softer or something that differentiates. Not they
Mhm.
shouldn't sound totally like a different character. And
Right. I agree with you.
that irritates me to no end. So if you're out there listening and you're a narrator, please make sure that your internal matches your external monologue, voice wise, and that helps me out.
Okay. Well, yes, and you said match.
Well, you should still sound like you. So, you know
Yes.
what I mean. Like,
Yes.
don't change your tone where you sound like a different character.
Yes, but you do want to know, you want to be able to differentiate when you are the character narrating what's happening and when you're a character involved in dialogue.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
You want that to be different, but the same voice.
Yes.
And there is a technique to that. And mine is basically, when I have my character actually interacting with other people in dialogue, generally there's just a little tiny bit up of the energy, possibly even a little bit up of the pitch, not enough to make it a different voice, but enough to kind of make a different sound so you can tell a difference. And I think that works for me most of the time. I don't know. I suppose if you take a listen, you can tell me if it works.
I will. I'll come back and say, Karen, you sounded like 3 different people. No.
Well, if you hear that, let me know, please.
Oh, I will. Trust me. No. I know how to do a professional, and I don't even call it a critique. I just share, well, this sounded like this. Maybe you can try something like this type thing. But again, I'm not a professional, so I don't know how it's supposed to go. But as a listener, I can make recommendations, and I've done that to some extent. But again, I'm like, please sound like you're, at least make me think you're the same person, and not
Right.
go off and sound like, a whole different character. That always throws me off. So that's my secret. Don't tell anybody.
Oh, okay.
That's just between us.
And the people listening to the podcast.
Oh, shucks. I forgot about them. No. All right. So you said that you've done a couple cozy mysteries, and as far as your leisure time, if you have some, I know that a lot of you guys get really busy, and sometimes you don't have time to read or listen to audiobooks and things like that just for pleasure. So I guess 2 questions. Do you actually ever still have time to pick up a book and read, or listen to a book that you just want to listen to for fun? And if you do, or if you have, what was the last book or audiobook you listened to? And if you haven't, then I'll ask a different question.
Okay. I would say yes and no to that question, because since I started narrating audiobooks, practically everything I listen to or read has that bend to it. Is this something if it's something I'm reading and there's no audiobook to it, is this something that my voice would lend itself to? Is this something that could be a potential book for me to read? And when I'm listening to audiobooks, there's always that critic in the back. Okay, I like the way they did that. Maybe I'll try to incorporate that technique. Or I don't like that. Do I do that? Those sorts of things are always there. I can't get rid of them. So it's kind of yes and a no. But when I pick books to read or listen to, I generally do go into the genres that I like and I enjoy. So I read them for pleasure as well. Now, sometimes I will pick up an audiobook that I would not normally have picked up just because it's a narrator that I want to listen to and study, or if it's an Audie winner and I want to go, okay, what was it about that performance that was so good that it won an Audie? So sometimes I'll do that, even if they're in genres I don't usually listen to. But for pleasure, even when I'm listening for potential work or training or improvement, I still will go to those genres I enjoy reading.
And which genres are those?
I am a huge fantasy fan. I love fantasy, high fantasy. I love mystery, paranormal mystery. I'm not into the urban so much for listening. I'm over the vampires and werewolves thing.
Okay, I just had to put a clap. I had to put a clap sound effect on because I totally in agreement with you. Somebody's gonna hate me after this show, but
oh gosh, but a lot of people will love you too. So I just think it's, it was intriguing in its time. Anne Rice was awesome, but I've read enough of those that I don't really need to read anymore for my personal enjoyment, at any rate. Every genre is valid. I'm not trying to knock it at all, but I really enjoy the fractured fairy tale type of thing, the retelling of a standard fairy tale with different elements and different turns and twists to it.
And those are really popular now, the fairy tale retellings. And I know a couple people that are writing those or have written those recently, and they're not on audio yet. And so that might be the people that we need to tap into to have those kind of stories put on audio. And I am with you. I enjoy fantasy. So tell me you're a Game of Thrones fan.
No.
Or Outlander?
That one I don't believe. If it's on the TV, I haven't seen it. I'm sorry. I haven't had time to watch TV very often. I'm sorry. I don't have time. I mean, not that I don't ever watch TV, but I don't have time to get into those epic series. As we've discussed before, I still have a full-time job. So if I want to get anything done in my narrating career, I have to kind of focus when I get home and kind of stay away from that. But I would be an Outlander fan, I believe. I've seen, the trailers and talked to people about it.
I think it's on audiobook. We should look into it. I think it's on audio, and I'm pretty sure, well, I'm not pretty sure, but maybe Game of Thrones might be on audio. We should look into it.
It is. But it's not finished. George R.R. Martin. But George R.R. Martin stopped the series to go. Well, he stopped it before this. It was 3 years at one point in time that his fans were waiting for that next book. He kept promising them, and then he completely left that and went to his HBO series, and now it's gone through that. And has finished the story in screenplay form, but still not in book form. Yeah. So that's when I, to be honest, that's why I'm not a Game of Thrones fan, is because I was a disappointed fan when it was in the book form.
Well, Karen, you're just going to have to get over that real quick.
I probably will have to, yes.
There's 7 seasons. 7 seasons of Game of Thrones for you to enjoy, and I'm gonna need. Look, you see my head? I'm doing the
yes, I do.
I'm doing the black girl head roll thing.
I can't do it.
Like, I'm gonna need you to pick up those audiobooks or watch it on TV. And that's enough of that.
I won't pick up the audiobooks until they're finished. I did love the story. I was into it. It was awesome. And I love the intricacy and the real feel to the whole story. I really do like the stories. I am a fan of them. I'm going to wait until he finishes it.
Okay.
Because I don't want to be left.
Well, keep holding on, Karen. Keep hope alive that book will get finished while the rest of us are watching it on TV.
I'm hoping. Don't tell me how it ends.
I haven't. I've only made it up to episode 2 for the season that just ended with 8 episodes. So it's like, what kind of season has 8 episodes? But whatever. Um, we'll just skip past that. But back to your work. So, are there any genres you have yet to add to your library that you want to do? I know you enjoy fantasy. Have you done any high-end fantasy or any paranormal, anything yet? Is that on your bucket list?
Yeah, I have done the paranormal mystery. There is one series that it's it may be. Hope none of my authors are listening to this. It may be my favorite.
You mentioned a favorite. You can't do that. No, I'm just kidding.
I know. That's why I said, one of my favorites. I'll put it that way because I
Okay.
do when I'm in the book. I'm engulfed in it enough that it is my favorite for the moment. But there
Mhm.
is a series written by Stacy Rourke. It's called The Legend Saga.
I love her. I met her. I just
Oh,
hung out
did
with her
you?
at Once Upon a Book. She does this
Yes.
event, and I'm gonna see her at PandaCon here in a couple weeks. She's
Well,
great.
she really is, and I think she's a very good writer. I'm very impressed. What this series is, it starts out with Crane, then it's
Yeah.
Raven, and then Steam.
Mhm.
And Crane basically takes the Legend of Sleepy Hollow story
Mhm.
with a twist, and it
Mhm.
hops you back in time to the time of the original um, story in Terrytown to present day,
Mhm.
and a descendant of Ichabod Crane.
Mhm.
And have you seen that?
I haven't read it yet. I own a
Okay.
copy, but you can
Oh, do
still.
you?
Yeah, I own a copy. But don't tell me
No.
the whole story. But you can keep telling us about the
Okay.
story though.
No, I won't tell it all. I'm just
Okay.
basically it's how she gets somehow involved, and it starts pulling out different truths from the actual fiction. Um, and then this kind of carries on through. Raven brings in Edgar Allan Poe,
Mhm.
and Steam brings in H.G. Wells into the whole. So it's kind of like it's a real interesting, very intricate, very moving. I mean, I cried in one of them. So, but it's very, very impressive. I think the way she brings it all in. I don't want to say a whole lot because
Yeah.
it will ruin it if I do.
And I love the
So,
book cover. So if you people,
oh,
if you the book cover, her book covers are just fantastic. And everybody who knows me knows I'm a cover
yes.
snob. And you look at the cover and you just immediately have to get you just have to buy the book because the
Mm-hmm.
cover. So you've done a couple Stacy books.
Mm-hmm. I did that
Um,
series.
you did that series, and
Mm-hmm.
so you've kind of gone through that genre. Is there
Mm-hmm.
anything else that we could kind of say Karen wants to do XYZ?
I have not done any high fantasy yet,
High
and I would
fantasy.
love to do that. I
Okay.
think that I need to work on my style for that, though. I still may not be quite where some people. I mean, I'm
You could
listening
be.
to the Cycle of Iran right now, and I listened. Of course, one of the first series I ever listened to was the Robert Jordan series, Wheel of Time,
Mm-hmm.
and with Kate Redding, and so I want to sound like that, and I don't think I quite sound like that yet. I'm working on that genre.
Okay. What about steampunk?
Love to do that. I think
Yeah.
that would be fun. Stacy's Crane series kind of borders on that a little bit, and I
Yeah.
really enjoy. Yeah, I would love to do steampunk.
Yeah. I know a couple authors who write steampunk,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't think all their books are audio. So that might be something we can look into.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely see, I'm the wheels are spinning.
I can
And
see that.
yeah, that's kind of what I do. But so now instead of reading Crane and the rest of the books, now since I know that you narrated them, I'll just go and get the audiobooks because I don't have time to read as much as I used to. I enjoy reading, but my schedule is, just like
Mm-hmm.
you, our schedules are very busy. And I like your voice and I love what you do. So why not just support you and Stacy at the same time?
Oh, that
Sounds
would be awesome.
sounds like a win-win. All right, Karen, so we're going to take a listen to one of your latest releases, which is Grim Expectations by Amanda M. Lee. Do you want to kind of let the listeners know a little bit about the story?
Sure. Actually, this is from book 5 in the series. It's about Aisling Grimlock and her family, who are a family of Grim Reapers who live in Detroit, and about their interactions with each other and issues that they come across during their daily jobs. There usually is a mystery involved in there somewhere.
All right, so let's take a listen to Karen Krause and Grim Expectations.
I'm having a crisis.
I opened one eye the next morning and found Jerry in bed with me. He sat on top of the covers and leaned his back against the wall in my new bedroom. I rubbed the sleep from my eyes and looked over my shoulder, surprised to find Griffin snoring lightly. His chest was bare, the blanket pushed down to his waist, but still covering everything, and he seemed to be out of it. "How can you be having a crisis, Jerry?" I asked, keeping my voice low. "And how did you get in here? We locked the doors."
I made a copy of your key last week.
"Why?"
Because I wanted it.
Jerry's answer was simple and bold. I couldn't really argue with his reasoning. "Okay, what's your crisis?"
Okay?
Griffin didn't bother opening his eyes.
How can you think it's okay that he got in your purse, stole your key, and made a copy?
"I was going to give him a key anyway."
Yes, but he stole it. Griffin pointed out. That's called stalking where I come from. That's called friendship where I come from.
Jerry shot back.
I wasn't talking to you anyway.
His tone was harsh, and I couldn't help but arch an eyebrow. "Why are you angry with Griffin?"
I'm not angry with Griffin,
Jerry said.
I'm sorry. That was mean. I've just had a terrible night. Did you know you'd already moved out?
So there was some things going on in here. It seems like somebody had a little, I don't want to say attitude, but they were it was kind of upset with
Yes.
what's going on in the story. And is this toward the beginning of the story or middle?
I don't remember. Probably kind of towards the middle. It's basically, it doesn't hurt anything to tell you what it was. It's Aisling's best friend from since kindergarten is Jerry, and they have bought a condo together and have been, sharing a condo for several years. Her boyfriend has purchased the condo next door so that the two of them can move in together, but then she doesn't have to have separation from Jerry completely.
Mm-hmm.
And Jerry's having issues with that. He is having separation anxiety.
Oh gosh. Yeah, so we definitely want to. I love the title because it reminds me of like my favorite book, Great Expectations. It's like Grim Expectations, and I don't know. So now in my head, I'm thinking Great Expectations, even though I know it's not the same book.
Grim expectations are a little lower.
Yeah. Well, we're definitely gonna have to take a listen to this one. And before we go, Karen, one little fun thing I would love to know about you. Do you ever miss acting on stage?
Oh, yes, I do. I do very, very much. There's just nothing like that connection you get to a live audience. And the adrenaline and everything that goes along with it. So yes, I do. And it's been a year and a half since I did my last show. So
do you think you'll ever have any opportunities at some point to maybe do a couple shows a year or, just so you can get back out there?
Oh, yeah. Yes. Yeah, I do. I just need to get my life a little bit less hectic at this point in time, and then I will. I'm concentrating on the narration, and so just took a step back for a while from the stage thing. But I will get back.
Well, we'll be looking for you in upcoming audiobooks as well as any stage productions you appear in. Please keep us posted. We will be sure to promote that with our fans and listeners and readers. If you're going to be in the area and there's people out there, we'll send them your way to go out and support you and tell them to tell you to break a leg. I think that's what you're supposed to use when you're on stage. Will never make sense to me to tell somebody to break their leg, but whatever. It's a stage thing, right? So
yes, it is.
What can you tell somebody who's getting ready to do an audiobook? I mean, we don't want them to break their legs, and we don't want to say, crack your voice or anything. So we should think of something.
Don't suck.
Don't suck.
Don't.
Unless it's a lemon, on a lemon.
Or a green apple.
Oh, green apples? Okay, I'm going to try those too. I love it. Karen, tell our listeners how they can find you either online or on social media if they want to keep in touch with you and stalk you or contact you about any of their upcoming projects.
Okay, awesome. I have a website. It's Just Sayin, JustSayin, VO.com. And you can contact me through that and listen to samples, and all my books are on there too. I have a SoundCloud page, which has all sorts of samples on it as well. And it is mrsbramson.com. I do have a Facebook page also. I can't tell you what it is, though. I have no clue what the URL is for my Facebook page. I usually just send links wherever I need to.
Oh my gosh, that's fun. But if someone goes to your website, can they find your social media links there?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
so
they can.
Everybody, that's the best way to find Karen is to go to her website, Just Sayin, no G at the end, Just Sayin, VO.com. So be sure that you go there and you're following Karen. Also, be sure that you are following us on Facebook, The Audio Flow, and also on Twitter at _audio_flow, and also on Instagram at The Audio Flow. And remember, you can download this episode at iTunes and Google Play, and also hear it streamed on iHeartRadio and TuneIn. Also, it's available on YouTube on the Booking Around Town station. I would love to thank our featured voice for this week, Karen Krause, for being here with us. Thanks again, Karen, so much for participating.
Thank you, Jacques. Thank you, Jacques.
You're so welcome. Thank you so much for being here. And everybody, until next week, you've been listening to the featured voice. Be sure you lend them your ears because they deserve to be heard. Thank you to our producer, Danielle at Firefly Productions, and to my assistant, Rebecca. Have a great week. Thanks again, everyone, so much for joining us for this week's episode of The Featured Voice. Be sure to tune in next week to meet our featured voice guest, Paul Heitch. For more information regarding the audio flow or the featured voice, be sure to visit us at www.theaudioflow.com. And remember, lend them your ears because they definitely deserve to be heard.